In sports, in life, we're told to aim high. We're told to be the best. You're supposed to chase greatness, and that's awesome. I'm all for big dreams. But the problem is we attach our identities to those outcomes. Think about Michael Phelps, the most decorated Olympian of all time, 28 medals. And after the games, he said he felt empty, lost, and even depressed. The second you actually hit that goal, that dopamine rush disappears. There's no chase, there's no target, and you can crash. Climb big mountains, set crazy goals, dream big, but don't tie your identity to that summit, because there's always going to be another peak, and that's what Never Summit goal setting is all about. It's staying ambitious without being chained to perfection. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Next Season Podcast, episode 35. Quick question for you. Have you ever crushed a huge goal? Right? You set a goal. This was a big, scary goal, and you get it. You hit that goal, and you're expecting to feel on top of the world. You're expecting to feel like this is it. I've made it. Like this is everything I've wanted. My life is going to be so much better now because I have this. And then you felt empty. You didn't feel all those great things that you thought you'd feel. Or maybe you set your sights high and you miss the mark. And then your confidence and your motivation, your whole identity just goes to the crapper. And you think, man, if I can't get there, what's the point? Well, there's actually brain science reason for that crash. And there's also a better way to set goals that keeps you ambitious but balanced. I call it Never Summit goal setting. And by the end of the episode today, you're going to have a new framework for chasing those huge dreams that you have, those huge goals, without letting them break you. And stick around to the end, because I also want to share how you can grab my science-backed goal setting tool to put this into practice today. So let's start here. In sports, in life, we're told to aim high. We're told to be the best. You're supposed to chase greatness, and that's awesome. I'm all for big dreams. But the problem is we attach our identities to those outcomes. I'm going to be somebody when I make varsity. I'm going to be cool, right? I'm going to be important when I make varsity. I'm going to prove to my parents, prove to my dad that I'm enough when I get that scholarship. And I'm going to be able to brag to my friends because I got the scholarship. Or I'm going to finally have self-worth when I hit 300 or 400 in this season. But what happens when you don't hit that mark? Or even crazier, what happens when you do? And the science around this is fascinating. Dopamine is the brain chemical tied to anticipation and motivation. And dopamine spikes when you're chasing a goal. And that's why that grind can feel addicting at times, and why we can get motivated, we can get driven and disciplined in the pursuit, because that dopamine is helping to fuel it if it's done properly. But the second you hit the goal, or if you fall short of the goal, the dopamine drops. Sometimes that drops really hard. And sometimes it goes below the baseline you had before you started that pursuit. And that's why athletes feel that post-season crash, or why Olympians often report feeling depressed after the games are over, even if they win. In fact, researchers studying Olympic medalists found something fascinating. Bronze medalists consistently report feeling happier than silver medalists and gold medalists. I'm going to say that again. In this study that was done, they found that bronze medalists reported feeling happier than silver medalists and gold medalists who finished better than they did. Why? Because gold medalists know that they reached the top and there's not much higher they can go. All the years of hard work for that moment, and it's what now? And then the silver medalists focused on what they missed, barely, just falling short of gold. They were so close, but they missed. While bronze medalists focus on what they gained, and they made the podium. It's a classic example of how our brain comparisons can shape satisfaction more than the actual outcomes. When athletes climb their mountain, literally or figuratively, when they plant that flag and realize there's nothing left up there, they can feel a huge hit to their system. And that's why I call this Never Summit goal setting. It's one of my bricks in my pillars for athletes. Because the moment that you think you've hit the top, you're setting yourself up for a crash. Let's talk more about what's happening in our brains and the bodies of ambitious people and what the science shows. There's this weird emptiness that sometimes hits after a big win, a milestone, or even after you finally achieve something that you've been chasing for a long time, months or even years. right? And it feels backwards because you're supposed to feel like you're on top of the world, but instead you feel flat or even depressed. So let's talk about why. There's a couple of reasons why this can happen. The first is the arrival fallacy. We've all said this. I said at the beginning of the episode, once I get this, I'm finally going to be, once I hit 300, once I throw 90 or 95, once I start at varsity. But the truth is that hitting that milestone only gives you a very short spike of happiness. Sure, it's great. It feels good. Like you need to set goals. But psychology calls this the arrival fallacy, the false belief that happiness lives at the finish line of whatever thing you're pursuing. Tal Ben Shahar, I hope I got the name right, teaches positive psychology at Harvard. And he talks about this. Success feels good, but then our brain adapts and we're back where we started. So again, we're pursuing something, we set a goal, we think we want to do something, we start pursuing it, we may even achieve that goal. That success feels good, but our brain adapts and we're back where we start, looking for the next hit of dopamine. It's something that's called the hedonic treadmill. So success feels great, but then when our brain adapts to those new highs, even great milestones can feel normal after a few days. That's a moment where we're saying, well, I'm never going to be good enough, or oh, it's you discount your own successes. It's right back where we started, or anybody could have done it. So there's a sense of humility, but it's a self-deprecating humility to the extreme where it starts to built in guilt and shame, right? You don't celebrate your own wins. Sometimes you fall below that baseline looking for that next hit of dopamine. Again, it's called the hedonic treadmill. Think about Michael Phelps, the most decorated Olympian of all time, 28 medals. And after the games, he said he felt empty, lost, and even depressed. Why? Because the goal wasn't the finish line. It never is. Again, you to be an elite athlete like that, a top performer, you have to be obsessed. I'm not saying this is bad, but I am saying it's not for everybody. So if you want to pursue those things and you've got the physical gifts and you've got the wiring that makes you want to pursue that, or just be a professional athlete, or just be, a college athlete. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. But when your whole identity is tied to that thing, that can help you get there, but just understand what you're setting yourself up for. Okay. That's the first one. Again, the first one is the arrival fallacy. The second one is the motivation gap. When you've been chasing a goal for months or years, your brain is fueled by dopamine, the chemical of anticipation and motivation. But the second you actually hit that goal, that dopamine rush disappears. There's no chase, there's no target, and you can crash. By a mountain climber who spent years preparing for Everest came home and said he felt completely deflated. Same thing goes with so many athletes who get drafted. They train their whole life for draft day. They hear their name get called. And a week later, they're saying, now what? And they subconsciously or maybe even consciously thought that the draft was the goal, it was the destination. And then they get the contract, but then they get distracted and they stop training the same way. And the career is over before it even started. That's the second factor, the second thing that happens with this, right? It's the motivation gap. The third is identity loss. And for athletes, this one is huge. If all you've ever been is the baseball guy, then what happens when the season ends or when your career ends? Your brain wires your identity to repetitive experience. Okay. So the more that you do something, the more you associate with being that thing. Years of being, oh, I'm the shortstop or I'm the pitcher. And when that ends, your brain doesn't know who you are anymore. Olympic decathlete Trey Hardy talked about this after retiring. He said he felt so lost that he even considered suicide. And that's extreme, but the point is real. And there are plenty of examples across the sports world. Michael Phelps has become a champion for mental health, speaking openly about severe depression and suicidal thoughts. Amanda Beard wrote about self-harm and drug abuse in her book. If your entire identity is tied to performance, that post-goal letdown can hit really hard. All-pro wide receiver A.J. Brown shared that he thought about suicide. Former MLB player Drew Robinson talks about it. Current Red Sox outfielder and All-Star Game MVP Jarren Duran has been open about it. Ronda Rousey, John Wall. There's so many. And I talked about in an earlier episode how this loss of identity seemed to be a factor in the overdose death of former Major League pitcher Brian Mattis. Even at the high school level, you see this. Seniors finish their last game and feel like their whole world just ended. So those are the first three factors in this. And again, they're massive factors in understanding how to set goals the right way and how to set goals the wrong way. So the arrival fallacy, the motivation gap, and identity loss. The fourth is something called emotional letdown. Sometimes success doesn't just feel like you thought that it would. And I just have to share this. So a couple days ago, my wife and daughter were watching the Simone Biles documentary that came out on Netflix. And I walked in and I got sucked into it. It was a powerful look inside the physical and mental and emotional toll that elite athletes can carry. And the way that Simone Biles handled it was eye opening. Even at the absolute top of her sport, you could see that pressure was absolutely crushing. And she took a step back. She stepped back at the Olympics, prioritizing her mental health over medals. And then you have fans and you have people on social media and all these different pundits and critics everywhere that apparently got their identity so sucked up into her performance and how she was doing. Something, something to talk about there. And she just had to throw it out. She just had to put walls up and say, it's not about you. This is my journey. Winning didn't instantly bring relief or happiness. It highlighted how even success can come with intense internal struggles. And Simone's story isn't unique. Naomi Osaka, Alison Smith, so many others have talked about this same thing. You win, but instead of relief, you feel more pressure, or you realize the victory didn't fix the things that you thought that it would. Okay. I'm probably going to butcher this line, but a great line in the movie Cool Runnings, where John Candy's character, the coach, the former Olympic bobsledder, said, if you're not enough without a gold medal, you're never going to be enough with it. Right? You realize that the victory doesn't actually fix the things that you thought. And that's where perfectionism creeps in. You think if I was really good, I would have been flawless. I would have struck everybody out. Instead of joy, you feel disappointment even in success. And in baseball, it might look like hitting a home run, but then being mad that you struck out two other times up. Or pitching a complete game, but thinking about that one walk, right? The brain is wired to spot mistakes. That's not necessarily a bad thing because that's a survival mechanism. But when you spot mistakes and not victories, it steals your joy. And you're not going to keep doing the things that you want to do and do them well if you don't have joy in doing it. Let's talk about perfectionism versus continuous improvement for a second. When you think about the ultimate goal for mountain climbers, it's summiting Mount Everest, the highest peak in the world. It cannot get any bigger than that, right? Well, this is how it can be really dangerous for us to tie our identity to goals because people will find ways to one up and do it bigger or cooler. So if you think that there's no bigger prize or no bigger goal, the ultimate goal for mountain climbers is summiting Everest, well, then somebody's going to come along and they're going to try to do it the fastest. Or they're going to say they're summiting the seven peaks. They're going to summit each of the highest peaks on each continent and then be the fastest person to do that. And then they try to break some other records, right? They might pull some weird crap and do it in a Speedo or something. You get the point. We're thinking of money. Think of money for a second. We chase money. We chase fame. We compare ourselves to the wealthiest people in the world. There can only be one wealthiest person in the world. And if that's your goal, if that's the goal for you, if that's perfection, you're going to be disappointed because I'm willing to bet that you're not going to become that person. But so many people do that. And we see this in so many domains of life and work in everything that we do. So going back to that Mount Everest example, this one hits home for me personally because I know somebody who climbed Mount Everest and he spent a ton of time preparing. He hired coaches, he had trainers, he invested tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars on training and equipment and permits and insurance, the whole deal. And here's the thing about Everest that most people don't realize. That climb is not linear. You don't just go up. You don't just march straight from base camp to the top like it's a hike in the woods. It takes about 6 to 9 weeks on the mountain. So climbers go, you arrive at the site, you go to base camp, and it's about 17,500 feet. And then there's higher camps at 20,000 and 23,000 and 26,000 feet. Give or take, I could be wrong with those numbers, but there's camps that are set up along the way. And then every time you move up to the next camp, you don't stay there and then keep going. You hit that camp, you acclimate to the altitude for a day or a period of time, And then you come back down to recover before you try again. So you're going up 2 steps and 1 step back. And then you climb again and you acclimate again and you take some time back. It's an acclimation process over the course of days and weeks. That is not failure. That process is survival. It's how you adapt to low oxygen. And it's the perfect metaphor for growth. You can't just keep charging forward. Growth comes when you push yourself, you recover, you reset, you analyze, you go again. Oh, you have a setback, things go wrong, you get hurt, you get sick, life happens. Okay, you're back up again. That rhythm is part of the plan. Eventually, if conditions are right, these climbers will make it to the top with conditions and a little bit of luck. But you don't live at the top. You don't live at that summit. Nobody does. The moment you get there, you take the picture, you maybe soak it in for a minute or two, and then you turn around and head back down very quickly because there's a line of people behind you, the weather's changing, and the clock is ticking. A 1 to 2 week climb to base camp, a 4 to 6 week climb through the acclimation process, right? That climb and come back and climb and come back. A 1 week summit push, the final push to the summit, right? So all of those weeks, and it takes 2 to 4 days to climb back down. That's crazy. And that's where so many people get stuck in life. They spend everything chasing that one peak, that one summit, a scholarship, a contract, a dream job, get drafted, make it to the show. And they fall short and they feel like a failure. And then if they actually get it, they crash because the summit moment doesn't last. They climb the mountain, they plant the flag and realize there's nothing left there. So a simple way to think about this is your goal shouldn't be to get drafted. It's a checkpoint in the process. Your goal shouldn't be to make it to the big leagues. That's a checkpoint in the process. Your goal should be to stay in the big leagues. It wasn't my goal to get a girlfriend or a fiance or a wife. It's my goal to keep my wife, to stay in love. That becomes the goal. And that's then what you're able to do and say, how can I stay? What do I need to do to stay? What do I need to do to stay married? What do I need to do to stay in the show? And that becomes the process and the grind. Understand the difference? And that's what happens when you attach your identity to perfection or a destination or to one outcome. You either get there and you feel worthless, or you don't get there and you feel empty. Both are dangerous. The alternative is continuous improvement. It's never summit. There's always another climb. There's always another peak. You don't stop climbing. You just shift your focus. Unlike Everest, where there's literally no higher mountain, in life, there's always going to be other challenges, another skill to sharpen, another way to grow. And that is the essence of Never Summit. That's why I call it. That's why I have it on t-shirts that I've made. It's what protects you from the letdown so many people feel after big achievement. And here's the beauty of it all. When your identity is based on growth, not just one result, you can fail miserably and still win. You can strike out. You can miss the scholarship. You can not get drafted and you can still be proud because you know you're better today than you were yesterday. You know who you became in that process, regardless of the outcome. And it seems counterintuitive, but this approach can actually increase the likelihood that you reach your goals because you're engaged in having fun in the process. And that's the mindset that keeps you alive in this game. So what's happening in the brain to talk about, I said we would talk about a little bit of brain science of what's going on here with goal setting and pursuit. So first is dopamine and motivation. Dopamine doesn't actually spike when you get the reward. It spikes during the pursuit. Again, it's an anticipation molecule or hormone. So if your only joy is hitting that goal, you're missing the best part of the process, and that's the climb itself. The second thing that's going on in the brain is your identity and self-worth, right? Neuroscience shows that when you tie your self-worth to a single outcome, the brain codes failure, right? Not achieving that thing or falling short as a threat to your survival. And that's why you feel crushed if you don't get it. But if you tie your identity to the effort, to the growth, to the process, to the climb, to learning, your brain stays motivated even when you fall short. And you either get a chance to go again, or if that ship has sailed and that's not going to be part for you anymore, you're that much further ahead to whatever you're going to choose to pursue next. So identity and self-worth. The third thing is neuroplasticity. And the brain changes through repetition. This is how we learn. Every time you get back up, you reframe failure, you keep climbing, you're wiring your brain to be more resilient, to keep learning. So let's give you some actionable, practical takeaways, action steps that you can take from all this information. Let's put this into practice. Here's how you can start using Never Summit goal setting today. You're going to set big, scary goals, but you're going to loosen your grip on those goals. Okay. It's ambition without attachment. You're going to write down your biggest, your boldest dreams. Maybe it's making it to the pros and staying there. Maybe it's a scholarship. But then remind yourself the goal is the direction, not the definition of your worth. It's the mountain you're climbing, not the summit that you have to live on. You're not building a house on the top of Everest. Okay. You're getting there, you're touching it, you're experiencing it, and then you're moving on to the next thing with all of that strength and all of that courage and all of that resilience and all that endurance that you've built, and that you're able to apply it to the next thing. And that's how you just you enjoy life, but you don't become attached to that next thing either. Okay. Define success beyond the scoreboard. Ask yourself, what does winning look like if I don't hit that ultimate outcome? Maybe it's improving your mental game, being a great teammate, building habits that are going to outlast baseball. These markers help you stay motivated no matter what happens. Okay, so those are your first two. Set big, scary goals, but loosen your grip. Define what success looks like beyond the scoreboard or beyond a stat sheet. Third is celebrate micro wins. Instead of only chasing the championship, celebrate the fact that you showed up and you worked. Today, you showed up. Neuroscience says that micro wins give you regular dopamine hits that keep you motivated over the long run. The fourth thing to do is detach your identity from the outcome. You're not your batting average. You're not your scholarship offer. You're not your follower count. You're a competitor. You're a learner. You're a grinder. Whatever those things are for you, understand what your real identity is and build your identity around those things, the effort, the process, the climb, and you're never going to collapse when a goal doesn't pan out. It might hurt. It's going to sting, but you're going to have a lot more resilience to get back up and keep going. So here's the bottom line. Climb big mountains, set crazy goals, dream big, but don't tie your identity to that summit because there's always going to be another peak. And that's what Never Summit goal setting is all about. It's staying ambitious without being chained to perfection. If you want to go deeper on this, check out episodes 13 and 14, where I talk about how we generally suck at goal setting and how we can use brain science to do it better. I built a simple science-backed framework for goal setting that walks you through how to apply this on your own in your own life. So if that sounds interesting, check out the link in the description. Go to the free stuff page on my website, Next Season Athletes. Grab that tool. It's going to help you. It's a framework. It just walks you through, here's how you can set goals, and then here's how you can apply some different principles in the process. If you've done SMART goals, it's SMART goals on steroids. It's next level goal setting. And that's really going to be a useful tool for you. It's how you can use your brain science and your brain chemistry to help you reinforce, set goals, and pursue goals that will stick. If this hits home for you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like it, save it, share it, drop a comment. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you didn't like. Tell me what you want to hear next. All of that really helps this channel grow and hopefully do some more cool stuff that'll help you as well. Hit follow, turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode. We're dropping new ones all the time. Bring on some cool guests. Appreciate you guys so much. We'll see you next time.